Hello, and welcome to another Rant Rave review. Today, we will be, alas, ranting about Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton, but raving about Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. So, sad stuff and then happy stuff. I loved Stuart Turton. I love 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. It's such a good book. So unique, so interesting. It literally restored my faith in the Western world to write an interesting book. And then I read his second book, Devil in the Dark Water, which had an extremely annoying female character that could have been removed from the book. And it was annoying. And then his third book came out. Let me tell you the premise. It's an amazing premise. And then I'll tell you why. Alas, it did not deliver. So, the premise is, it's like the far, far future, the end of the world. It's basically a post-apocalyptic future where the last dregs of humanity are on this little Greek island that's like a scientific research facility. There's scientists and there's people who are just islanders. And for all we know, the entire rest of the world and surrounding this island is basically like a deadly nanite swarm. I think they're like nanites. It doesn't really say exactly what they are, but they're like glowing, evil nanites that will kill you. And it's also a little bit of a dystopia. Okay, so the narrator of this book is an AI named Abby, and she's in everyone's head, and everyone has a chip. So she kind of, it's interesting because it's told in first person, but a lot of it sounds like third person because she's telling you what she's observing. And she can do things like make a curfew where no matter where anyone is on the island, whether they're in their bed or on the beach, they'll just flop over asleep at curfew. And some people have artificially extended lifespans, so they remember the time before the nanite swarm. And those people are a lot taller than everyone else, and you're like, that's odd. And so yeah, there's definitely some weird shenanigans going on in this world. So you're like, strange. Okay, that's the setting. And then the plot is essentially a murder happens. This is all back of the book stuff, so I'm not really spoiling anything, but a murder occurs on the island. And someone has set it up so that by killing that person, a kill switch was activated. In which Abby, the robot, who is keeping this force, not the robot, AI, she's basically keeping a force field to keep the nanite swarm out. And if they don't solve the murder in a set amount of time, the force field will come down and it will be the end of the world because everyone, the last humans, will die. Okay. Great premise. Sign me up. I was so excited. Yes, this man just comes up with the most amazing premises for books. Yes. No. So, first of all, this book was a fatty. And by the halfway point, I was like, can we get to the murder already? This is kind of a slog. I think it's an 11-hour audiobook. It's just really, really long. I swear the murder does not happen until halfway through. It could have been slimmed down. It wasn't exciting. Devil in the Dark Water was still exciting despite the annoying female character. But this book was just, it felt like a slog. The entire thing just didn't, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't exciting. Despite the ticking clock scenario, probably because it didn't happen until halfway through. Anyway, so that was one problem. Murder should have happened earlier. The whole book should have been slimmer. Minor quibble, I don't care for present tense. And although it works in this book because the main character has amnesia, Abby, the robot, is talking in present tense. And again, it's almost a mix between first and third present tense is just the absolute worst. Most nails on the chalkboard thing, okay? But again, not everyone has problems with present tense the way I do, so take that with a grain of salt. The characters were again, we had a very special, like, I'm not like other girls, main girl detective. And it made more sense. It wasn't as bad as Devil in the Dark Water because it wasn't like I'm not like other girls. It was more like I'm not like other islanders because everybody on the island is very, like, passive. They're just like, yeah, that's life. And she's, like, a little more like, well, I want to find out what's going on. But it still felt like not like other girls, which was just kind of annoying. Whereas other characters, like, I don't know, it was hard to like any characters in this book. Everyone was kind of unlikable in a weird way. I guess I couldn't really sink my teeth into anything in this book in a way. But the most egregious thing, the reason why, like, I'm ranting about it instead of just forgetting about it, because, like, again, I would just be like, whatever. But, like, the part that really bothered me is, so you have this murder halfway through the book. And it's even more wild than just the force field's going to come down and we have to, like, solve the murder. It happens at night during curfew. The murder happens, and everyone is like, they wake up in, like, different places from where they were, and they're like, what happened last night? So you have the dual mystery, not just a murder, but, like, what happened? Like, what is going on this island? So it's very interesting, right? Okay. And you have the whole ticking clock scenario, but without spoiling anything, what eventually happens at the end of the book, we learn, would have happened regardless of whether or not the mystery got solved. Without going into spoilers, so basically the detective solving the mystery changed nothing. Nothing changed. Whatever would have happened, would have happened. And I'm like, that's not great for a mystery. And B, like, that's not how you do a ticking clock scenario. You never want to have a, like, ticking clock scenario. Just kidding. None of that mattered. Like, the ticking clock, YOLO. And I'm just like, oh, no. No, like, I don't know. It was just so disappointing. And I feel like the worst part, I keep saying the worst part, Devil in the Dark Water, I think was actually a better book because it was also a chonky fatty. But if you removed the annoying female character and just had the main detective, it would have been a great book. Like, I honestly legit think, like, it wouldn't have been as good as this, but it would have been a really good book. Whereas the problems and flaws with Last Murder at the End of the World are much more ingrained, and you'd have to do a lot more work to save it. So yeah. So, I'll probably read Stuart Turton's fourth book. Like, I'm like, he's just so interesting, and he has such interesting ideas. I just want to see them blossom into beautiful things. So, like, Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. So that book, this book, different author, it's so much fun. And honestly, it's fun because it reminds me, see, I just keep talking about this guy. Beautiful, beautiful book. Okay. This book, highly artificial, absolutely an homage to, like, classic country house mystery, closed circle of suspects, yada, yada, yada. Similarly, Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone is like a love letter to detective fiction. And it's very meta. And much like how this book has, like, rules, and you know the rules and you play by the rules, same thing with the Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. So the premise of that book is basically there's this family reunion happening at this ski resort. So again, you have this, like, somewhat set off locale with a certain closed circle of suspects-ish. But the main character is a mystery writer, and he's telling you, well, he's actually, like, a writer about how to write mysteries. He's like, oh, I've only published some, like, ebooks about how to be a writer. But he talks about the classic detective writers and their rules for mysteries, like play fair mysteries. And these are real things, like real actual rules in the real world. And you're familiar with some of them, like you have to introduce the killer before the halfway point. You can't have, like, Deus Ex Machina, etc., etc. Okay? So he lays out these rules at the beginning of the book, and he's like, by the way, by the end of the story, everyone in my family will have killed someone. So you, the audience, are like, I know the rules. So you know the rules, and it's like playing a game. So you have this like family reunion, and it's a bunch of different family members. It's like the main character and his mom, stepdad, stepsister, aunt, uncle, brother, ex-wife. I don't remember if there's anybody else, but like, so you have this cast of characters, and what's interesting is when he says that everyone in my family has killed someone, he doesn't necessarily mean murder. Like, obviously there is a murder and a murderer going around doing things, but some of them, it's like, oh, this person like killed somebody in a drunk driving accident, or things like that. So as you learn more about the different family members, and you're like, oh, that person like killed somebody like that, you can check them off their list of like, they're not the murderer, because like, you know, they've already killed someone. And so it's really fun because it like narrows the field. So much so that at one point I was like, not that character. No, he needs to kill somebody. Like, yeah, like I don't want to do the real murder. Yeah, it's just very fun, very self-aware, and just like delightful. Yeah, it was just a really fun read. And again, much like this book, 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, where I didn't really care for the ultimate motive of the killer in this, but the ride was so fun that I didn't care. Totally the same thing in Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, where the ultimate, like, once you find out who the murderer is and why they're doing it, I was like, I'm not really into that, but it was such a fun ride to get there. So yeah, so give it a read. It's really fun. There's also definite, let's just, without saying anything spoilery, there's definitely some like homages to The Mousetrap by Agatha Christie, although he never says that that's what they are, but I'm like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like, come on, guy. This is a mousetrap in many ways. But yeah, it's super fun, and yeah, so read it. It's delightful. It's fun. Yeah, see you next time.